From the Daily Reporter, this is Ethan Duran. Welcome to Brews and Blueprints, a podcast about construction and development across Wisconsin. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Reporter, Brews and Blueprints podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Duran. Today, we have two podcast guests joining us. First is Jill Ackerman, Assistant Director of Membership, Engagement, and Workforce Development at the Plumbing, Mechanical, and Sheet Metal Contractors Alliance. Jill is involved in keeping the pulse on workforce development as the trades take on a younger demographic. We also have Chris Martinez, President of Dairyland Energy Solutions, an energy contractor serving commercial, industrial, medical, and municipal clients, but specializing in HVAC, fire suppression, and more. Martinez is the co-chair of the Building Advantage Board appointed by PMC. He's president of the Plumbing Mechanical Contractors Association. Welcome to the show, Jill and Chris. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So to start off with, tell me a little bit about your professional background before arriving at the Alliance, and tell us a little more about the PMSMCA organization. I hope I got that right.
Well, Ethan, I come from a pretty diverse background. I truly feel all my previous experiences have led me to be in and prepared for the position I have today. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree from UW. At the time, I probably thought it was a great idea to work with three different schools, the school business, education, and fine arts, to create my own major. In the end, it was a lot more work and confirms I must love a good challenge. I've always had a passion for helping others and creating a sense of connection with individuals. Many will say I'm driven, I can't sit still, and a solutionist. Most of my positions in the past, especially while younger, in hospitality or in customer service, and then a good part of my career was in finance, wealth management, and client service management. The fine arts part of my degree was focused on performing arts and dance, as I have a separate resume as a choreographer, teacher, and performer throughout southeastern Wisconsin. I try to keep my foot in the arts sector as it will always be a part of me and has helped shape who I am. But it's hard to continue those passions while raising my family and pursuing other career aspirations. I've always had a appreciation for those in the trades, as I understand firsthand the benefits and values being married to a foreman and heavy machine operator with Local 139. Some may thought I was crazy to make such a big industry change a few years ago, and it is quite a humbling experience. I'm constantly learning, being challenged, and my goal is to continue to have progression in whatever that may be. So a little history about PMSMCA and its mission. There are a lot of acronyms in our industry, as many can attest to. There are also many layers that can be confusing, even for people in the trades. The PMSMCA, as you said, stands for the Mechanical Sheet Metal Contractors Alliance. It's a mouthful, say it three times fast, which represents two associations. The PMC, which is the Plumbing Mechanical Contractors, that's been around since 1883, and SMACA Milwaukee, which is the Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning Contractors Association of Milwaukee. That's been around since 1936. Our contractor members employ journey workers affiliated with Local 18 Sheet Metal, Local 601 Steam Fitters, and Local 75 Plumbers, as well as other additional trades. The mission for PMSMCA, it's really to offer education and training, represent our members for governmental affairs, serve as the bargaining agent and contracting party for labor relations, and build relationships for our industry contractors and associate members through our events and activities. And then the big piece, workforce development, working for our contractor members and with our partners to help build a pipeline for the future generation of workforce.
Chris, no need to be mysterious. You could share a little bit about yourself as well.
Thank you, Ethan. So, so I am, as you mentioned, president of Dairyland Energy Solutions, president and founder. Um, I actually, I'm a journeyman wireman by trade, master electrician, and my story kind of goes uh, in and out of education before my apprenticeship and then after my apprenticeship. But we as a company, we are a full service plumbing, electrical, and building automation company. Um, we really focus on our core values as a company as we serve our client base. Our core values are real simple, four very key core values of dedication, embracing challenges, professionalism, and cooperation. Um, and as we say here at Dairyland, we like to turn problems into energy solutions. So oftentimes we have our construction team and our service techs enter a client's facility, and they might come to troubleshoot something simple as or preventative maintenance, for example, on a NFPA 70B safety exam or inspection, and they might find that there's lights that don't work or a flush valve that's leaking. So what we really try to do is think through the lens of our client base and make sure that we're really helping them manage the issues that some of which they're not even aware that they have right within their own facilities. Um, I can talk a little bit about my history, but I think we've got a couple of other items that you wanted to tackle first.
Yeah, of course, I'd appreciate it. So I think a big topic for today's episode is going to be a little on workforce development. I've been to a couple of PMSMCA events before, covered the heavy metal summer signing day. Hope I'm getting that right. Um, and you two, as I understand it, when we met, not too long ago before Christmas, you two have worked extensively in workforce development, sometimes together, sometimes independently. Um, what's that like? What's it like courting, younger folks, getting them interested in the trades, especially your respective trades? And I could say my questions for one at a time, but I want to ask, what makes your specific trades different than, what iron workers do, or what, you know, the AGC or ABC or any of the other associations might cover as well.
So, I mean, I can kick us off there. Um, so each respective trade has its own joint apprenticeship committee, um, and the idea behind each of those JACs, as we call those, is to recruit and train prospective journey persons of their respective crafts. So here at PMC SMACA, we focus in on plumbing, sheet metal, and steam fitting. Each of those having their own JAC and training programs, training facilities. So with each of those, um, what our what we're challenged with and tasked with is the recruiting side and then also the administrative side so that the curriculum stays fresh, pertinent, and on the cutting edge of what's needed in building facilities as buildings start to really progress, technology advances, such does our training. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on in all of these crafts is providing not only the training necessary to perform a career and a career path, but also to provide an opportunity for those graduates to go on after they're done with their apprenticeship and have a successful career as a journey person or move on to other things like teaching, inspection, project management, estimating. There's so many different ways that they can, so many directions they can go, so many different pathways that they can pursue. But they can also continue on with ACE credits. That's the American Council of Education. They can continue on with ACE credits and finish an associate's degree or bachelor's degree at a local university.
Yeah, so I have down here, workforce development is booming. And just to take off of what Chris is saying, as we know, the trades industry itself is trying to prepare for approximately 40% of skilled workers to retire over the next decade. I initially walked into my role learning about an event that the Alliance had helped and supported by bringing high school students together to interview contractor members for youth apprenticeship opportunities. But as I prepared for my first year coordinating, I found myself not only learning more of the facets of the industry I work in, but a more in depth look at the challenges our communities and school districts are facing with getting students exposed and connected to the right individuals in our industry. I'm continuously learning more layers within the educational system. And there was a gap. Our industry was behind when it came to YA when compared to other career pathways like healthcare, finance, manufacturing, marketing. The landscape of the school curriculum has changed and is still evolving. And even though several of our contractor members were already successful utilizing the YA program and making the investment, there was a lot of work to be done to educate our industry and figure out how we can work together to achieve the same goals for outreach, exposure, and educating the next generation earlier than post high school. So, going into my third youth apprenticeship interview day, we've gone from prior years having only 3 to 4 contractor firms participating to this year potentially 14. It's making it the largest interview day yet. And last year we've had 30 different school districts participate. And this year we expect to have well over that number and a max of, 145 students participating. Our outreach is larger, and this is due to the industry working together. We had our first YA signing day at Milwaukee Tool downtown last year, and we're excited to continue with this premier partner relationship for another year on May 14th. It's a great way to recognize these students for them to understand the value in this opportunity. It's a head start, it's a golden ticket. If they show up, put in the work, stay focused, these employers are going to invest in them. So they have doors open for rewarding careers in any of the trades, right? And we are also excited. As the association, we're bringing back what was a pilot program in 2024 with local 75 plumbers. We will be going on our second year having local 601, 75, and 18 training schools host their own youth apprenticeship readiness camps, which is meant for contractors to send their YAs to. It provides an opportunity for students actively trying to gain more experience in the trades. And then you had mentioned the heavy metals summer experience. I'm excited to say we're bringing that back for another summer. It's a long time coming for Milwaukee. It is supported on a national level through the Sheet Metal National Association, SMACNA. The Heavy Metals Summer Experience Milwaukee Camp. I mean, it, just alone, heavy metals across the US and Canada is supposed to have 67 camps this year. It's really exciting. It is meant for 16 to 19-year-old students seriously interested in the sheet metal and pipe fitting trades. And this camp is continuing in Milwaukee with the support of our contractors, Smart Local 18, and our host this year, Gruno Company, AGI Fabricators with Total Mechanical.
So it sounds like the number of young people that are getting interested in the trades are booming. As you said, you've had more candidates, there are more opportunities and just chances for exposure being given to them. On the inverse of that, what are companies looking for right now for their young interviewees that make them a quality worker? When 16, 17, 18-year-old is looking to get in the industry, what do they need to show that they're serious about the job and making it into a lucrative career?
Well, I can start this off, and then if Chris has anything he wants to add, those that show determination, effort, motivation, taking steps to gain experience in the trades, attending or applying for workshops, camps, taking any construction courses, working at local hardware stores or your Home Depots, or any job for that matter, um, helping family or friends with yard work, those that are a part of a team sport. Uh, or a club, which shows commitment, building a good resume, having good grades in school is important. And also, a big key item that we've heard a lot of is soft skills. How to look someone in the eye, be respectful, have a positive attitude, and have reliable transportation.
Yeah, I would add to that, Jill. What we're really looking for is just a well-rounded individual. We want somebody that is going to show up on time every day. Um, there are opportunities in each of these respective trades where they can get involved in pre-apprenticeship activities. Um, they can take a job as a driver, a material handler within one of the respective trades, and really show an employer that they're serious about the just the work ethic component of it, that they really want to show up every day. If they're asked to work longer hours, that they're willing to do so. um, Grades, Jill touched on that. Math is so important in all of these trades, and the more that we can get into high schools, we've even started to get into middle schools and some grade schools, really just to impress upon students that, hey, be serious about math, be serious about science. These things are going to be very important as they get out of high school and interested in any endeavor, but certainly the building trades require such a high math, kind of um, component that we want to make sure that every candidate and every applicant understands that that is very, very key. Um, yeah, a willingness to work in different climates. Sometimes we're working outdoors. It's 90 degrees in the summertime. Sometimes we're working outdoors. It's 0 with the wind blowing. Um, it could be the middle of summer, and you might have to do refrigeration work inside of a plant that, their freezers are at 20 degrees. So you just have to be prepared for anything that could get thrown at you on any given day. So I would just say the willingness to have that kind of um, ability to pivot and really be prepared for whatever might get thrown at you from a client, a situation, etc.
Now, Jill, you mentioned 40% of the construction workforce is on its way out by the end of the decade. Was it the next 10 years, the end of the decade?
It was a decade. Yep.
So sooner than later. And Wisconsin is also facing a not facing, but there's an opportunity for a lot of mega projects going on. One of the recent news items is, Microsoft adding 15 data centers to its ongoing location in Mount Pleasant, and more on top of that in different parts of Wisconsin. I wanted to ask, how do your respective organizations sort of play a role into, helping supply the workforce for that? Not saying that, youth apprentices are building a data center right now, but we're already at a point where out-of-state workers are going to be called in to do the job in Southeast Wisconsin just because the people we have here, the ranks are getting a little thinner and it's easier to burn out on a job like that. But how do you help with these large projects, and are the new workers getting resources they need, when they're working long hours and, risky conditions?
Yeah. So again, it comes to industry leaders, business owners, and labor coming together to not only invest in the next generation, but yes, work is really good right now and is expected to continue. And PMSMCA wants to make sure our contractor members and are heard and have the support that they need when it comes to labor relations, training, and workforce development initiatives. I don't know, Chris, if you have anything else that you want to add on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Thank you, Jill. What we find ourselves as we analyze the numbers ourselves, in each of the respective trades, it's twofold. We have this boom going on right now. Ethan, you had mentioned the data centers. We also have an awful lot of retirements that are about to happen. So we've got this um, real need right now to not only recruit but really prepare ourselves for an abundance of training beyond what we ever would have imagined years ago. Um, when I was an apprentice, I was at the time in the largest apprenticeship class until that year. We were the largest apprenticeship class. The head count in my class was 60. Now that the standard is becoming 80, 85. We're talking about trying to go north of 100 apprentices every year. So what we have to do as individual trades and industries, we need to reinvest, and we are reinvesting in more training, more facilities, more instructors. So we're preparing ourselves by putting the money out there so that we can have the systems in place such that as we recruit, we can bring on more apprentices in any given year in every academic year and get those graduates climbing. Now, this is an investment we're making today. Um, as you had mentioned, Ethan, youth apprentices are building these mega projects. So what we're doing right now is we're actually training apprentices such that they graduate in 4 years or 5 years, depending on the respective trade duration. So we're looking at apprentice graduates in the next 4 to 5 years and still try to infill and backfill that pipeline so that we don't have this dip beyond there. We believe that there's likely 10 to 12 years of this activity in front of us with these mega projects and other projects that are continuing to go on. You know, our day-to-day commercial, industrial, and healthcare facilities, those are going to keep growing as well.
Can I throw a curveball question to you too? Since we've been talking a lot about hands-on workforce, human workforce specifically.
I'm sure Jill can handle it.
Oh, thanks, Chris.
I think a big conversation in construction right now, and you can let me know if this is relevant to the plumbing and mechanical alliance at all. But prefabrication construction, panelization are becoming a larger part of the conversation as contractors are trying to find solutions to their own labor shortages. And I wanted to know what your attitudes are on that. How does that, the idea of construction materials being put together off site and then being shipped on site to be, kind of snapped together like Lego bricks. Um, what do you think of that idea? Does that make you more hopeful taking on projects, or do you view it a different way? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
I could take that, Jill, and certainly if you've got something to add. But um, prefab, believe it or not, is nothing new. We actually, as our company, we started doing prefab probably a dozen years ago. Now, prefab at that time was more of a convenience. Um, we understood that schedules were going to be tight on a given job, and we wanted to figure out what we needed to do, such that when that schedule allowed us to mobilize, we were prepared to get, an installed or prefabbed assembly installed quicker within a shorter timeline, and especially with compressed schedules. Now, prefab shops have really grown with just about every contractor. We're just doing it for a matter of efficiency, but certainly as these, you mentioned mega projects or any project, take a medical facility. Um, these compartmentalized prefabricated units are becoming more and more popular, and we're supportive, and we're actually involved in those types of activities as well, where we can start to install our respective trades within a, let's call it a pod, and then the pod gets delivered to the site. Um, we find that not only is that allowing us an opportunity to get ahead of a schedule, but we also find that it's, in some respects, there's more controlled environment. So in some respects, it's a safer environment. Um, job sites are still, there's risk there, but we still, as the building trades, we really take safety very seriously. So whether it's on the job site or in a prefab shop, we're always operating with safety as a very high, first and foremost kind of mission. But in a prefab shop environment, you are in a bit more of a controlled environment that it really does elevate that ability to maintain safety. So I embrace it. I believe most industry leaders embrace it. And I do think that it's an important facet to making these projects successful and keep them going and keep this industry rolling.
Well done, Chris.
All right. Um, Jill, out of some of the events you mentioned that are coming up this year, Heavy Metal Summer, Signing Day. I think I got that mixed up at first. It was Heavy Metal Summer graduation, and then there was a signing day at Milwaukee Tool. I remember the
So
last year.
So it's Youth Apprenticeship Interview Day. So students across, southeastern Wisconsin school districts sign up for what we call time slots, and then they bring students that are seriously interested in the mechanical trades getting a youth apprenticeship. So for those that may not know too much about it, it's for incoming juniors and seniors. It's a Wisconsin state program. It's learn while you work, you know, uh, and they get school credit for it. So there's a process that goes into it. A lot of schools, students have to meet certain criteria to be able to get into wanting to do a youth apprenticeship, and then they have to interview with an employer. So whether that's even a different industry, but for our trades, what we did was we came together and we put the contractors and the employers all in one place. And then we bring in the students in one day to do first interviews. So once those first interviews are done by the contractors, then the contractors narrow down, who they want to see for a second or third interview, maybe bring them to their shop, get to know them a little bit more. And then they pick who they'd like to, what's a good fit for them to start this student as a youth apprentice in the summer of 2026. And so from there on, we added last year a youth apprenticeship signing day, which just recognizes those students and the employers too. And, it's a big deal. It's exciting. And for them and an opportunity. And we want them to understand that. Because, like I said before, our contractors are investing in these students because we've had several, contractors who have successfully been utilizing this program for a long time that, a student would be with them for a year or two as a youth apprentice and say it works out. They're moving the student around and the student decides, hey, I want to do sheet metal. I want to go in to be a sheet metal worker after I graduate high school. And so some of them, our contractors are utilizing that as their what we call a pre-apprenticeship process. They're kind of weeding them out and trying them out. And now they know that, hey, this student is somebody or now, young adult after graduation is someone that I want to hire on as a registered apprentice and I want to invest in them. So yeah, it's very exciting, kind of closing a little bit of a gap there. But that doesn't mean that you can't go into a registered apprenticeship after you graduate without doing a youth apprenticeship. So
For sure. Will we see the alliance at the next, and then Chris, you're on the board for Building Advantage, so maybe you can chip in. But we're anticipating another visit at American Family Field coming up this spring potentially. Any word on that? We really enjoyed being at the last one. I think there were over hundreds of area high school kids there getting involved, learning how to make their own toolboxes and trying painting and stuff like that.
So a little bit of background on that, Ethan. Thank you for queuing that up. Um, the the event that you're describing was actually a hosted event by Building Advantage, and years ago it used to be hosted at the Waukesha Convention Center or Waukesha. I believe it's a convention center. Um, we, as the Building Advantage board, we're trying to figure out why is it that we're not getting schools, MPS schools, part of that event on an annual basis. We kept hitting this. Yeah, we get a couple hundred students, and great candidates, but not MPS students. So we actually, I feel like it was about 5 years ago. We really laid it out there. We put our money where our mouth is, and we invested in an opportunity to have it at the Pfizer Forum. Um, we as a result of that, I believe the first year had about 400 attendees. Um, so up, 100% essentially if it was a 200 previously. Year two, I believe we almost hit 800, and then last year, I believe it was 1,100 students in attendance. So, yeah, great traction, great opportunity, centralize it so that we can still pull in um, the Waukesha County kind of school districts and also really get all the MPS schools to be able to participate in that as well. So really centralize it, and AmFam Field really seemed to be a great venue that we moved it to last year, and we'll be looking to do that moving forward. Certainly keeping our options open for other venues, but the intent is really to make it more inclusive. And yeah, we're excited to be looking forward to that as our 2026 programming as well.
Yeah, and so the date for this year at AmFam is Tuesday, May 5th, Ethan. So Building Advantage will be putting that on for another year this year at AmFam.
Wonderful to hear. And Chris, you bring up an interesting point on moving the location from Waukesha County to basically the center of Milwaukee. Is moving it geographically, outside of just being a central location, is it intentional? Um, yeah, I'll leave with that.
Yeah, I mean, very intentional. We really wanted to make sure that we were capturing as many potential candidates as possible, and we felt like having it so far west. That it really was limiting access to a handful of schools and maybe a couple of districts that were at the far west end of Waukesha County. Um, so we were even finding that some of the eastern Waukesha schools weren't even participating. So by bringing it more centralized, right on I-94, using AmFam Field as an example, we felt like this is really going to help boost accessibility for whether you're at the north end in Ozaukee or Washington counties, or you're at the south end all the way to the border, including Oak Creek, Franklin, etc., and still being accessible and very easy for the Western Waukesha school districts to participate. Um, what we've found is that we're not only bringing up additional numbers of attendees, but the demographics are completely changed. We're really casting a wider net from a demographic standpoint that I think better represents the community at large, and certainly the building trades as we see the building trades evolving.
It's great to hear. And sort of bouncing back on this, because I feel like I know both of you primarily at events, like the one Building Trades hosts. You're kind of in a sea of apprentices or potential apprentices, constantly focusing on workforce development. Um, w- we brushed up a little bit, you and I, Jill, in our last call about different ways that the industry reaches out, whether it's internally or externally. There are different ways, mediums and ways to get across to people, but I think we were talking a little bit about how face-to-face interactions make a great lasting impact. And I wanted to hear, your thoughts on why that is. Why is, shaking hands with and talking to a young person a little more effective than just appearing on TikTok, for example? We like to throw TikTok under the bus because we know our listeners are a bit older, but I digress.
So So I have things to say on that, but I'm actually gonna let, Chris chime in too, not just me on this one, because he comes from a good perspective as a contractor and what he's looking for. But from, a membership side, from the alliance, as well as workforce development initiatives, it's important, in our today's day and age and technology, like you said, we lose that there's something to be said about having a conversation in person with somebody. And whether it's at an event or doing an activity with them, they tend to open up a little bit more. You get to see who they really are, and just really build that relationship. And then it's like you go home or what have you, and you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, like I remember I'm gonna call that person, or email them on Monday. It was great to talk to you about this or what have you. I think it's just important to have that we don't lose sight because we get so many emails and text messages and everything. Everybody wants to move faster. And just to really step back and enjoy the time that we have with um, having that face to face interaction with somebody. And Chris, again, you can add stuff to this as far as, when you're meeting and building relationships within your firm.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. So, Ethan, I think really an important part with this, the face-to-face interactions would be maybe going back 6 years now. Um, the advent of the pandemic really increased our use of Teams and Zoom, which had some real positive components to it and still do, but there was a slight negative piece to that, that there is this I think importance to have that face to face and be able to sit across the table or next to somebody at a table and just have this personal contact. Being able to shake their hand, look in their eyes outside of the camera, and be able to see and hear what this person is really about. Really listen with intention, whether it's a potential candidate, a current apprentice, maybe it's a journeyman that's really, contemplating what they want to do next, if they want to be a foreman, if they want to be an estimator. But having that face to face, I think has been a real important and deliberate thing for PMCS SMA to develop the networking and education events on a regular basis. And thankfully, we as an industry also have very, very powerful partners that help support these events. Um, Again, providing opportunities for not only us as industry leaders and our respective employees, um, but also to have the vendors right in front of us so that we can figure out what's next. What is the next technology that's going to be out in front of us in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and have that discussion in a more social kind of a event, if you will. That better aligns with how do we prepare again our apprenticeship, our training, and invest in those types of activities. From a recruitment standpoint, um, you know, what we do is we really encourage our project managers, estimators, our journeymen, journey workers, and our apprentices. Use your own networks. Maybe you bowl every Tuesday night, and there's a couple of people that are just not pleased with the career path that they picked. That's an opportunity for people to face be able to say, "Hey, I really love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I love building buildings." Um, I think that face-to-face element is so critical in developing the foundation of our future leaders.
And that brings up other questions about, success stories of people you've worked with. Maybe they were an apprentice and they went to the signing day and maybe they're running a business. Um, you know, uh, you mentioned the strength of partnerships in the industry as well. I'd like to hear about that if that's possible too. Um, Anything else you two want to talk about? I think I've led on with a lot of questions and we've gone over a lot, but I'm happy to oblige if you have any new topics you'd like to bring up here.
So I can talk a little bit about partnerships when it comes to contributing to the workforce development side of things, just to take off of what Chris, from another perspective. Building partnerships with the community and within our membership is really what it is all about. You have to understand both sides to create solutions to problems and hear ideas for new initiatives. It also takes finding the right individuals who want to move the needle and make things happen. There are so many skilled, incredible people out there who are just itching to do more, but they might be unaware or are waiting for the right opportunity. The more we can work together for our industry and not as competitors, the more we can accomplish some really amazing things. So I just wanted to highlight that on my end.
Yeah, Ethan, if I could also just add a couple more things about, when I go out and chat with, whether it's an adult that's considering, changing career paths, a high school student or a middle school student, whoever it is, I do like to share, my personal journey because there are so many hundreds, thousands of these other stories that can be shared, but I share mine. I mean, I was a 17-year-old student at UWM on my own journey. At least I thought I was on a journey, on a 4-year degree path, putting myself through school. I worked at nights and on the weekends as a quote unquote electrician. I had no training, very little guidance, but that's how I was paying for my education. A friend of mine introduced me to the path of apprenticeship. Um, I had no idea what apprenticeship was about until he brought it to my attention, and I discovered that I actually apprentices get paid. You get paid to go to work, and you get paid during the time that you're going through school. So about my junior year in college, I decided I'm taking the option of apprenticeship, and I finished my apprenticeship and quickly discovered that once I graduated as a journeyman wireman, I was able to pick other pathways. I could have become, an inspector. I was looking more in the business direction, and I finished my career path with becoming a master electrician. And then I went back to school. I took my ACE credits and went back to a BSBA program and, finished my master's license and opened my business. So that's just one example of what somebody could do. One of my favorite stories is my very first apprentice I hired as a business owner. Um, I'll just say his name is John. And John today is an inspector. Um, it's an amazing success story. Um, he had a tough way. He whether it was academics or attendance, whatever those things were, I was always there to work with John and make sure that he finished his apprenticeship. And not only did he finish, he became a master electrician and now he's an inspector. So there's just the sky is the limit. People can do all sorts of things, engineering, estimating, contracting, you name it. It's just an incredible opportunity for a second try at a career or the first go at it as a high school graduate.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Chris, one more thing. When we were discussing earlier, I believe you were formerly on a board for a joint apprenticeship committee on the electrical side. Just for the sake of this is also sort of a news podcast, would you like to share a little more on that?
I appreciate that, Ethan. Yeah, so I I have it listed, I think, in my social media that I'm a joint apprenticeship committee member, trustee member. I need to officially update that in my social media that I can now say that I recently resigned in that role. I'm proud to say that I was in that role for, I believe, about 20 years. And I loved it right until last week Thursday when I announced that I was going to step down and allow somebody else an opportunity to bring a new and fresh perspective to the board. Um, Although I will still, I'm sure, be corralled in and voluntold to come out and maybe visit a school or two. I still find joy in that. I really do. But I'm so proud of the fact that I was able to, contribute something to the industry for, like I said, I believe it was in excess of 20 years. And I'm just happy to be able to say that I did that with a smile and proud of the things that we as a group did together.
Great to hear it. Are there any upcoming workforce initiatives or events that listeners should mark on their calendar?
Well, we mentioned a couple of days. So, for the Association for Workforce Development, we do have our interview day on April 15th here. It's actually hosted in Wauwatosa at the Milwaukee Electrical JATC, which is connected to the PMSMCA offices. We're excited because not only are there going to be up to 14 contractors interviewing students, but we have our training school is going to be in the lobby interviewing and talking with students, letting them know a little bit more about the registered apprenticeship process for after high school. Milwaukee Tool is continuing to support this event, so they're going to be in the lobby as well as WRTP Big Step, one of our partners, just to share about their resources. So if anyone knows any students that are going to be a junior or senior, most likely their school has already received the information about this event. And then that just leads into our signing day for those students that are selected for LYA, which is on May 14th at Milwaukee Tool downtown. And then our big heavy metal summer experience camp is going to be held June 22nd through the 26th. It is hosted at 3 different locations. So we're in the selection process right now. The application is open on the Heavy Metal Summer Experience website under the Milwaukee camp. So students actually age 16 to 19 years old. So even if they've graduated high school, can apply for this camp. And then they do an interview with me, actually. We have a committee that selects students. We're really trying to get a good variety of students from all over southeastern Wisconsin that are seriously wanting to learn more about the sheet metal and pipe fitting trades. And so we'll hope to have all of those students selected in May so that we can go ahead and continue planning and getting them prepared for this amazing fun camp where they make, projects every single day. There's activities, there's some scavenger hunts, games, and also some competitions because who doesn't like a little competition? And then, yeah, at the end, we do a graduation ceremony and several, last summer was our first summer doing it, but we had a few students that received youth apprenticeship offers, as well as a pre-apprenticeship offer for sheet metal. So that's really exciting. And yeah, we look forward to another very busy summer for us all.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. Thank you for sharing. Well, thank you, Jill and Chris, so much for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it, Ethan. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you, Ethan, for having us.